Hey friends, it's Hope, and today I'm here to do a little bit of a different video. So most of you guys know that most of my videos are over books and all that good stuff, but today I'm going to do a video over my trip to Egypt. A lot of you guys know that over the New Year's holiday in the first few weeks in January, I actually was doing a lot of international traveling for vacation, and I was getting a lot of questions about that trip. So I knew I wanted to video record at least some of my trip and maybe do some type of vlog or document your life video. And I thought for at least the Egypt one, I would talk you through what we did, why we ended up going there, and things that we experienced, what my general thoughts were, and insert some clips and pictures while I'm talking it through with you guys as well. And if you guys have any questions about anything that we did or anything about Egypt, feel free and leave those questions down below. I will definitely try to answer them the best that I can. But without further ado, let's just get on with this video. Alright, so about a year ago, my husband had asked me where I wanted to go on vacation, and naturally, I just wanted to go to the beach and do something relaxing. Because we had a lot of miles that we could use, he was thinking about going someplace a little bit more exotic. As you can tell, Egypt is definitely not the beach and Gulf Shores or in Florida somewhere. So we used our airline miles and we went on this extravagant vacation that was so life-changing. So the first stop that we went was Egypt, and it was the first time that I have ever flown first class, and now I am so spoiled because I now know the luxury of having lay-down seats for a really long flight, and also they feed you amazing food. If you guys ever have the opportunity to fly first class, especially if it's going to be a long flight, I highly suggest doing that. When we flew over to Egypt, we flew, I believe it was Egypt Air. I may have made that up, but for some reason, if I find out any differently, I'll let you know down below. A lot of people were concerned about our safety and had asked us if we really thought we should be going because of the safety issues, and I wasn't too worried about it all. And when we got into Egypt, they had security everywhere. We actually stayed at the hotel that was connected to the airport, and while this probably should have freaked me out, but it didn't, going in and exiting out of the area that we were staying, they had some type of, I guess, policemen or military people outside with guns and not really tanks, but you know what I'm saying. Some really heavy vehicles that were protecting the entrance and exit of where we were staying. Even walking in and out of our hotel, you had to go through a metal detector. You had to send all your bags and belongings through those x-ray machines. So they really had security down packed. So the first day that we were there, we actually went to the malls. Before we even got to Egypt, Bo's bag broke. We could only bring a really small bag because of the crop duster we were taking from Nairobi, Kenya to our safari place only allowed us to bring a small duffel bag. So because of that, we only packed one little small duffel bag each, and Bo's duffel bag broke before we even made it to Egypt. So we went to the mall to look for a new bag for him and just to kind of shop. And let me tell you guys, that mall was huge. That was the biggest mall I've ever seen, and the picture that I'm showing you doesn't even do it justice. Like, this was one of 4 sections, and you can see all the levels, and it was just so crazy how many stores there were. At the mall, even when you entered into the mall, you had to go through security. So you went through a metal detector, you sent your bags and your belongings through an x-ray machine, and even when we were waiting for our transportation to come pick us up, every car that was going by to park in the parking lot of the mall had to stop and had to pop their trunk, and they had bomb sniffing dogs that walked around your whole vehicle. So obviously there were some extreme security measures that were taken into place to keep people there safe. But like I said before, even though there were a lot of safety precautions and a lot of police and military officials and stuff like that around, I honestly never felt in danger at any point in my trip in Egypt. So we actually spent 4 hours at the mall, which is pretty extreme, but after that we were exhausted, so we went back to the hotel and we slept because the next morning we were going to be spending pretty much the whole entire day with our tour guide. And so the next morning it was the tour where we were going to go see the pyramids and go see the Sphinx and learn about some of the history in Egypt. And let me tell you guys, my expectations for this trip weren't the highest, but this was by far one of the most memorable trips I've ever been on. Seeing the pyramids is something that you really only read in textbooks or you see pictures online. And it was crazy to travel through the city to go see something that you never would have thought you would have ever seen in your life. So on our way to see the pyramids, it was interesting to see just the different architecture that was in the city. A lot of the places there were run down and they weren't finished. And we found out that because of how bad the economy is there at the current moment, a lot of builders haven't been able to finish the houses or apartment complexes. So that was very interesting, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But when we went to the pyramids, that was so insane. So we did have a tour guide with us, and she was so amazing and so nice. I'm going to leave the information to her and her company down below. So if you guys ever decide to go to Egypt, I definitely would recommend you guys contacting her and setting up a tour through her. But she was straight up with us. She told us, you know, if people come up to us and ask if we want to buy something, she's going to translate it to us in English. And if we don't want anything, just say no thank you and they'll back away. Which you never do know if you are gonna get hassled or not, but she was right. If you just said no thank you, people politely just smiled and backed away, which was so very different from my experiences in other countries. I felt like I've gotten hassled a lot for souvenirs or other things in other countries, but in Egypt, like I said, they respected your personal space, and once you said no, they just like politely backed away. But when we went to the pyramids, I did not expect all the things that we were going to do. I thought that there was gonna be some barrier or ropes or sanctions that was gonna like block off the area of the pyramids, but there were not. So we actually were able to climb on top of the pyramids, which is so mind-blowing because it is like the only 7 wonders of the ancient world like still standing. So the fact that we got to climb on top of it is a little mind-blowing to me. But anyway, so we climbed on top of it to a certain level. Of course, we didn't go all the way up, and took some pictures, did all that touristy stuff. And then we learned a little bit about the history, which I thought was really cool. So there are actually 3 of the big pyramids that you see, and the pyramids are for the king, his son, and his grandson. And behind that, you actually have 3 more little pyramids, and that's for all the king's wives. And the reason why they built the pyramids was because that is for the tomb when the king dies. So he gets buried in there, and then he gets to go and spend his life in the afterlife. So just knowing that way back then you did not have all the machinery and equipment that we have that would enable us to build something as big as the pyramids was so crazy to think that people did that by hand. So after we walked around on foot and learned about the pyramids, we actually got the opportunity to ride on a camel, which, let me tell you, that was the scariest part of the whole trip. My camel's name was Michael Jackson. Bo's camel was Charlie Brown, and that cracked me up that they had such westernized American types of names. But yeah, it was kind of scary because you are really high off the ground, but naturally I embraced the camel riding, and I was taking pictures, and they like walked you around so you can get like a panoramic view of the pyramids. After that, we were able to go see the Sphinx, which that was so cool too. I just did not expect it to be so large, and the fact that it isn't completely worn down is amazing. You can still see all the features, which, like I said, I was just mind blown, because you would think that after all those years it would be so worn off, but you can actually still see the features. Now, something I did learn about Egypt is that 90% of the country depends on tourism, or depended on tourism. And before 9/11, our tour guide said that they would have between 20 and 30,000 people that would come to see the pyramids a day. Friends, when we went, there were less than 100 people there, and I think we were there on a Saturday. So people still have this giant fear to travel over there, and because of it, Egypt is suffering so bad economically because 90% of the country relies on tourism. And even our tour guide was saying that because people don't have jobs anymore, that's affecting more than just them not having jobs. She was saying that her friends, her family members that are all her age, nobody's even getting married because over there, if the husband can't provide for him and his family, they're just not going to get married. So a lot of people over there are still single. And she said a lot of people can't even afford to stay in their houses. In 5 years, a lot of the houses around the pyramids are actually going to be torn down by the government. It has a mixture to do with people not being able to pay to live there. And then they also think that there are some artifacts and things of value underneath the houses and the apartment complexes. So they're about to actually tear down a lot of places in the area. After getting to see the pyramids and the Sphinx and learning a little bit about Egypt's history, our tour guide took us to this hole-in-the-wall place, and we had an authentic dish, which the whole time I was thinking that my doctor who gave me my yellow fever shot would be shaking her head at me because it was like literally everything she told us not to do and not to eat, but we went for it anyways. I mostly ate the majority of the food. It was called koshery or something like that. Anyways, it was actually really good. The whole time I was a little freaked out that I was going to die or have like horrible stomach issues, but no worries, friends. I made it through and it was actually pretty tasty. So yeah, overall, it was a really great experience. I loved getting to see the pyramids and the Sphinx and just learning about the history. I will say that Egypt is still very accustomed to their culture. Now, I will eventually do a video about my trip to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where that's also a predominantly Muslim country, but Dubai and Abu Dhabi are way more westernized than Egypt. With that said, I stood out so much. I think when we were in the mall, I did not see one other white American girl. Like, I was it. So that was very interesting. With all that said, if you guys are wanting to take a vacation that is unique and a little bit different from anything else that you've ever done or ever thought that you would go and do or visit, I highly suggest putting Cairo, Egypt down as one of your spots. I can honestly say that our time at the pyramids were completely breathtaking. It was so cool to see some really ancient history, and like I said, see things that you wouldn't normally see unless you were reading a textbook or looking up online for some reason. I am a big advocate of not letting fear get the best of you. I would have missed out on a life-changing trip if I let fear get the best of me and let fear prevent me from traveling to a country and a place that just has so much history and, like I said, was so breathtaking. So if you guys have any specific questions about my trip to Cairo, Egypt, please let me know down below. Like I said, I would love to help answer, but I have been rambling on far too long now. I was hoping this video was gonna be like 4 minutes long, but you know, I'm a talker, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave your questions down below. I will definitely try to answer all of them. Until next time, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'm sure I will see you soon. Bye.